1, 2, 3, 4. I got thoughts running through my head. I got thoughts, can't you see? I got thoughts, the books I read. I got thoughts, won't you listen to me?
Hello and welcome to the third episode, part one, of my continuing commentary series, The Author Has Thoughts. Today it's been a while since I recorded the second video, maybe about 2-3 weeks. Today is Liverpool's Champions League final against Tottenham, so go Liverpool. If my American fans don't know what I'm talking about football, i.e. soccer for the Americans. Liverpool's playing today. Going to watch the game later tonight. Hopefully they beat Spurs. Let's go, boys. Let's go Reds.
Headed away, volley back in by Van Dijk, it's cleared by Spurs. Van Dijk trying to win it back, nice turn, Origi turn, shoots!
The book we're talking about today is the third episode in the Stepping Stone Cycle series, number 3, called Drowned. Now, I wrote this book in, according to my files, I created it in December of 2013, which means I probably started writing and maybe just set up a file then and then wrote through the rest of 2014. And somehow it took me a year to publish it, published in December 2014. And I'm pretty sure I came up with the idea back when I was writing The Metal Black. There was, I believe, a story that I saw on the news, and it probably made about 3 or 4 days of headlines, and then it was gone out of the national news. I'm not even sure. I think it was maybe Texas. But a lady, a wife, married, her husband had a bunch of kids and drowned the kids in the bathtub. And that's horrible, but it made a good basis for this story as far as the where I wanted to go with the story. And ostensibly, from what I remember of the case, which again it didn't last very long, is that the mother was super religious, the parents were super religious, and she had I guess something mentally, some mental screw loose, and she drowned the children in the bathtub. I believe for religious reasons. I don't honestly remember what those reasons were. But in the case of the book, I decided to make it, to set it so that the mother of these children, this super religious couple, had 5 children, and she drowns them on Christmas Day, in the bathtub. She gives them sedatives in the milk, and then they all go to sleep, and then she drowns them. And she says that the reason she drowned them is because they were demons. They were demons, not just they were possessed by demons, they were actual demons. The story is that Jack is called in to consult on this case. It's an open and shut case, so there's no question of her guilt. She actually confesses to the crime at the scene when the police arrest her. She calls the police. And so the district attorney, or one of the ADAs, calls Jack in for a forensic psychologist consult. And as Jack begins to investigate it, he starts to see connections between the children and the way the mother talks about the children and his previous case in The Metal Black of the Haynes kids in Quitman, Mississippi. So we open the book on Christmas Day, and Jack is basically going stir crazy in his house. He has no work because it's Christmas. He has nothing to distract him, and he goes through everything. He tries to watch football on TV. He tries to putter around. He tries to read. Snow covered on the ground. He can't really go outside because it's just snow, unless he wants to shovel the walk, and that's about it. And all he can do is think of Sarah. Sarah loves Christmas. She was an avid Christmas person. She always wanted a Christmas tree. Had to go get one. Even they didn't have kids. She wanted the Christmas tree. She loved Christmas decorations, and he loved that she did. He one of the things that was endearing to him is when she would get so excited like a child at Christmas, and he loved that about her. So he didn't bother getting a tree this year because why would he? Sarah's not there, and all it's going to do is remind him of her even more, and just kind of drive the pain home. So he finally gets stir crazy enough. He just decides to get the hell out of there. In fact, to get out of town. He's going to take, and of course, because Jack is at this point understandably obsessed with his wife, he has to, rather than just get out of the house, Jack has to get out of the house with a purpose. He has to go and try to investigate what he can of their disappearance. So Jack decides to try to follow the trail that they would have gone on. And Bill has, in the first book, has told him, where their trail stopped, somewhere in Maine. So he goes, he drives up I-95 to Maine, or up I-95 and then switches over where he goes to Maine, to the point where their trail ends, and then he tries to basically guess or deduce where they might have gone. What's a yuppie, couple gonna do on a driving trip up to Maine? Well, they're gonna go antiquing or bed and breakfasting or festivals or whatever. In the early, I think late summer, early fall would have been when they disappeared. So he tries to piece together what would we do. So he ends up going to this. He goes up to this town, and it's snow covered. The local festival market, whatever, is closed. So cop tells him you can't just park here. You get moving on. And so he asked the cop, well, what would a couple do in this town? If they're just driving through on a vacation, on one of those toured vacations. And so the cop tells him about this island called Sheboygan Island. I think I pronounced that right. If I didn't, Mainers, I'm sorry. And I think, if I remember right, when I was writing this, part of the reason I had them disappear in Maine and go up to Maine is, kind of an homage to Stephen King. Big Stephen King fan in my formative writing years. And of course, most of Stephen King's books are set in Maine because he's from Maine. So, kind of a little nod to Stephen King, to King fans. And so he goes to Sheboygan and goes to bed and breakfast and asks the lady at the register, at the counter, have you seen me before? Have you seen, shows a picture of his wife. Have you seen this woman? So, and she's the lady behind the register says, I can't say that I have. I've been, how long have you been here? Well, I've been here, a long time. So she asked Jack, why are you asking this? And Jack has to tell her, we doesn't have to, but he chooses to tell her that, the wife's gone missing and he's trying to find her. And I wanted to point out something that I came up with in the book that, since then, having dealt with some other tragedy and traumatic things with people I know, is for some people, and I kind of projected this for Jack as well, that well-meaning look that people give you when you tell them you're a victim or have had a tragedy to someone you care about, someone around you. It's that natural human empathy for a stranger. The stranger would just say, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you, and that's perfectly human and perfectly understandable and perfectly right that a human should have that empathy. But I imagine that Jack would, after a certain amount of time, just get sick of it. Just get so frustrated with being the object of their, it's not pity, but it is pity, a little bit of pity. The subject of all that pity, and again, he appreciates, but it also, he can't help but emotionally, it makes him angry because it illuminates the lack of control he has over his own life and the life of the people around him that he loves. And so it's not just that Jack, it's not that Jack doesn't appreciate the empathy, doesn't appreciate the sympathy that he's being given by this person, this complete stranger, But by the same token, it's a frustration with something I think is a fairly common theme in Lovecraft, and I've talked about it before in Lovecraftian Myths, is that the universe doesn't give a shit about you, your loved ones, or any of the things you do. The universe just is, and you are often given a very clear indication that the universe doesn't care. And in this case, it's highlighting not just how little control Jack has over the universe, even in the small universe of his own family, and his marriage, but just in general, that he is powerless against whatever this is that has taken Sarah from him. Here's a test for sound.